Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Ramblin' Live. This is an impromptu episode by your host, Jessica Cassidy, aka Chris, joined by my usual co-host Derek, aka Dark Neon.
Don't you? What? Wait. Have we been here before?
Yes, and we have a special guest with us along tonight, my good film friend and fellow Godzilla fan, werewolfriver, aka Ian.
Hey everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, this is much different than the last time.
Well,
Yep.
yes.
There's now a wolf in your presence.
Well, yes. Yes, the Wolf Among Us, insert sus nice. Yeah, so we are here to talk more about Godzilla Minus One just because, there's so much to talk about anyway, and, I can gush for another 2 hours about this anyway, but yeah, we're here to talk about it because, again, I want to get the insight from my fellow G fan who. The funny thing is, we were supposed to see it together, but circumstances led it to him not being able to join us for a group screening. However, he has been able to catch it, and I'm very curious to hear his thoughts. And on top of that, we're going to be talking about the surprising reactions we've been seeing to this, like not just outside of the general sphere of the culture community, but the world at large, which I'm surprising. Like I've never seen something like this happen with the thing I really into, like a Godzilla film of all things.
Well, also before we get started, one more thing. So I've been looking at Rotten Tomatoes, and if I ever see one of those green sluts again, I swear to fucking God,
I will
I will
stop
stop
being
being
so nice.
polite. Get the fuck out of my presence before I demolish you.
Yes. Now it's all in all seriousness. In all seriousness, if you're somebody who saw this movie and it didn't gel with you, that's perfectly fine. Everyone can like stuff. Some people really like Last Jedi. Some people really like the holiday special. We don't judge. But
No, but making a critical assumption that minus one is bad just will probably incite that you're a pod person and you will be on the FBI's most wanted list.
well, like if okay, like if you can back up exactly with practical evidence, then yeah, it's perfectly fine. But if you're someone who says something that's based purely on a little nitpicks here and there, and you want to say stuff that's outrageous to say, I don't know, you'd rather be watching Godzilla's Revenge or something. And if you get stuff thrown your way, you're probably asking for it because if you're trying to make such outrageous, basically to quote Jorel, you know them neither to be rash nor impulsive. They're not bold, prone to declarative statements. But when they say stuff like that, you go like, you're just asking for it, man. Not now. Again, we don't endorse the harassing or anything of anybody that has different opinions than yourself. I mean, this is a freedom of expression thing, but sometimes sometimes it's just bait, and sometimes you guys take a hook, line, and sinker, and that's what for some people any publicity is good publicity, regardless of the attention it draws. So, other than that, though, generally the general consensus has been really positive, which is especially surprising for a kaiju film of all things.
Yeah, I know. Especially, like when this, because like even when Shin Godzilla was getting all the praise that it was, like it never felt like it got. Certainly not to this level where it's like you're having something like 98% Rotten Tomato scores, and some people, like even this Instagram page that I follow that's kaiju related, saying that this might even be their favorite film of the entire series, which like when I first heard that, I was like, oh, wow, like that's powerful, and like even to be able to go see this movie with my mom and to have her, you know, be gushing about it afterwards, and to say that the only criticism she had was she couldn't stand the crying the crying baby in the movie.
Well,
That was really,
there's always one little thing for that will get the people, but other than
yeah.
that, you're right. Like it's just so surprising to hear this like you think they were talking about a Scorsese movie with the way some people describe this, emotional, powerful, gripping, edge of my seat, probably one of the best of the year or best of the franchise. So Derek, you have not made it well known that you probably consider this probably amongst your all time favorite, not just Godzilla movies but movies like it, and best of the franchise for you, as you would say.
Yeah, and I'll repeat it again in that video here so that Ian understands. I firmly believe Godzilla Minus One eclipses the original 54 movie. Now, I know that's a bold statement to make, and yes, 54 did do a lot of innovative things. It took like a a form of filmmaking that's usually known for like B movie sci-fi gobbledygook nonsense and made it into something profound, especially with all of their um, very well done camera angles and effects for the black and white. But and although the human aspect of 54 wasn't terrible, and it actually had a good moral value lesson in it, I didn't feel any worry for the main cast in that movie because they were scientists for one thing. They knew very well to not mess around with Godzilla. And hell, they were kind of like outsiders looking in as they lived far outside the borders of Tokyo. So when Godzilla did show up, they were just kind of like, "Oh, well, that kind of sucks."
Well, yeah, you got
Just
like
to watch from the distance and be sad, you know, like, oh yeah.
like Sarazawa watching the
But
destruction on TV.
yeah. Whereas in -1, the main cast are almost always in the presence of the monster himself, and you're always like gripped with full attention and full worry that something's going to happen to these guys because you know it's like kaiju movie, and there's always like sometimes people make a mistake like, okay, what would be very hard hitting? What would really get the audience attention? Oh yeah, if we take a book from George R. Martin and kill one of the main characters, and you're sitting in your seat going, no, that's not necessary. We don't need to see that. Just let them escape. Oh God, please don't charge up the heat ray. Please, no, stop.
I wasn't expecting AVPR point blank next to the range. You see face get completely blown off before being atomized to destruction. But yeah, I would. Anytime those spines lit up like a reactor core and started like popping out, I think with each pop out, your sphincter would tighten because you're going like, oh shit, here it comes.
Exactly. And not only that, but I think Jonesy paraphrased it. If you would from like some other YouTuber that if you were to take a superhero out of like the superhero identity out of the movie, would you still have a good story that's still wrapped around it? And in some cases, you can find those types of things. Hell, I think Batman Begins could actually work if it wasn't even really a Batman movie. Maybe the original Superman, but it's essentially like as long as like the gimmick isn't what the movie is trying to sell you on. But what I'm saying is like the movie can literally just work on its own without Godzilla. It's just that Godzilla works as being a catalyst of the really great gripping story we have with the human characters.
Yeah, it's like Logan.
Yeah.
Go on.
No, I was just saying that with all that evidence stated, that is exactly why 54 is now, in my book, going to be finally dethroned only in second place among the top Godzilla movies, with -1 reigning king.
That's great. Yeah, like I was saying, Logan works because of the whole X-Men gimmick, but even without the mutant connections, I think the story of a man trying to find redemption with essentially his daughter works on that level, and the X-Men trappings kind of help add flavor to that. So I think that -1 is the same. The story of post-war Japan reeling from the aftermath of a terrible war that was bad for everybody involved, and then having to pick the pieces, build it together, and then this new threats upon them. The threat was a typhoon instead of Godzilla. I think that kind of story would still be engaging. Obviously, we're into it because it's Godzilla, but Godzilla is not the ingredient that makes it work. Godzilla is, an enhancer to the core, which is this, this family dynamic. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And sorry, what was I going to say? Sorry, kind of slipped my mind. But yeah, it definitely has one of the better written human plots we've seen of a Godzilla movie. Like it's kind of similar to like Godzilla against Mechagodzilla in that the plot is revolves around someone who's like kind of guilt ridden because in some ways this is better because like it actually he is. I mean, it's questionable, obviously, at the beginning, like what the main character could have done, when Godzilla was attacking the village, Did anyone else think he kind of looked like I don't know if anyone remembers the Steve Miner Godzilla movie that was going to happen in the 80s.
Yeah,
like
he
he kind of looked like that at the beginning.
I think it almost kind of looked like a little bit of a fusion of that, but with also like the movements of the Final Lands '98 Godzilla.
I see that. Yeah,
Little-
he's like that mixed with Zilla. Yeah, like the two first American Godzillas like kind of mixed together. That's what he's sort of like. And obviously it's questionable if like even if he had like fired on Godzilla, if like that would have even worked. But he still has that guilt. And definitely, this is of all the Godzilla movies, this is one of the more like realistic portrayals of guilt or like kind of PTSD because like he's he's a kamikaze fighter pilot who ditched because he didn't want to waste his life for what was nothing, what was a war they weren't going to win anyways, and like he is ridden with guilt because after he did that, then he didn't do what he could to like save a group of people, and it gets to a point where his guilt is so bad that he doubts his reality. Even he even thinks the girl and the little baby he finds are like just hallucinations, perhaps. It almost reminds me like in the Spider-Man story, Kraven's Last Hunt, where like Spider-Man is doubting if he's even like alive because he's so freaked out by what happened.
Yeah.
Exactly. I pointed out in the review that I'm surprised this movie found a way to really sell us on how veterans' PTSD could feel and is portrayed without having to like spell it out for the idiots. Like he literally just explained it to his wife in a way where like even he's like unreeling just a prospect as more as he's thinking about it. It's like yes, it was horrible. It was just like I couldn't help anything. I was helpless. They all died because of me. But that's it. But if I'm dead too, oh my God! What? Oh, this is just a dream. What? Just last breath of a dying man that just failed at everything.
Yeah.
And it's just sitting there. You're just thinking, dude, just stop and take a moment to breathe. God damn it. Okay.
Have a Snickers.
Yeah, I was thinking too.
But yeah, like yeah, so yeah, we like you said, yeah, really well-rounded human cast. Like we mentioned in our review, we really enjoyed the crew of the Ikemaru. I think the sweepers, which included guys like Noda. That was our favorite character, the professor.
Yeah, I see that. He's very like charming and kind of he's charming. He's kind of like he's the closest this film I suppose this film has to like a Dr. Yamane sort of stand-in. Like he's the good-natured scientist who like is very understands what's going on and understands the risks or like the complexities of the situation. Like in this Dr. Yamane's case, it was that he wanted Godzilla to be studied, but he also recognized what had to be done in order to inevitably save the people of Japan. And then you have Noda, right? That's his name. I'm sorry that I'm forgetting the name.
Noda, yeah.
Noda, who's like, is like Godzilla can't be stopped, but I'm also not going to lie to you. I don't know if what I've invented to stop him, if the situation I've come up with to stop him is even going to work. In ways he's almost like Yamane mixed with like Serizawa.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's both the guy who comes up with how to kill Godzilla, but he's also the guy who like is kind of reserved and not as dark and moody as like the original Serizawa in the original film.
Funny enough, he kind of reminds me of Obi from the Loki series.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm just thinking that just now.
Are you sure it's not because you're like that's also just recent off the cuff on your mind type of thing?
Well, it's just because you had that quirky inventor who they tell you like it is, but they're not like bleak or grim about it. But they're also, they come up with some eccentricities that help, break you into that type of science, like explaining the concept of spaghettification through.
Oh, wait, what was the name of that scientist from the Return of Godzilla '84?
Oh yes, Hayashida.
Yeah, I think Noda gives way more vibes of Hayashida. Because like
I see that.
He's also experimenting, but then just like Noda, he notices something that could actually be utilized to stop Godzilla. Where like Noda noticed the fish being depressurized as they rise up to the surface because Godzilla forced them up, while Hayashida noticed that Godzilla is like attracted to the sound of seagulls going off in a direction
And it's notable that in both situations they both implement like some sort of sound device, to like lure Godzilla to a certain area.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And yeah, other characters of note I really liked was I liked Akitsuku, Yoshi Akitsuku. He was the ship captain who has nicknames for everybody, and he has a great moment.
Doc.
Yeah, he has a great moment when he's saying, well, we got a chance to we're ahead of the ship, and not we're ahead of him. We could be able to hit him off and actually just take him out before the Takeo gets over here. And when they see him meet the other boat, he has a look on his face of like, crap, let's turn around.
Nope, 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 nope. This
Oh
ain't
no,
worth it.
way worse. Way worse than I expected. And it's funny because like that actual shot of like Godzilla chasing the boat down, that was I think kind of the moment where I was like, oh my god, this movie is definitely gonna be something, because it's such a.
Yes.
I mean, my mom was like, immediately in love with the shot the moment it, came on, and like, it's as you were saying, Derek. Like, one of the things that really works about this movie is how many times it does put the main cast in like direct peril. Like you have them being chased down, in the ship, and then when Godzilla's rampaging, you actually see like, you have the girl actually holding on the train while Godzilla's like
Oh
tearing
my
it
god.
apart.
Yeah, exactly. Every single time he's appearing. Well,
Yeah.
at least every time that he attacks.
Yeah.
Because there's sometimes where he's like just kind of like slipping by. It's like, oh, don't mind me, just swim by your boat here.
But yeah, but it's not like when Godzilla 2014, I mean, legendary Godzilla swims through the water. It's almost like graceful, like watching a pod of whales, and sometimes like that. It can turn deadly. Like yeah, it turned deadly when he attacked the fleet in the Tasman Sea in Godzilla versus Kong. But for the most part, I get a sort of gracefulness whenever he does that, bobbing to the surface. When it's the Heisei Godzilla to the water, he's always standing upright, and you're like, okay, he's very direct shot. But with this, you're like, uh, you thought Jaws made people afraid to go in the water? Try imagining that coming at you when you're on a boat. A lot of people I heard who are non-Godzilla fans say that's their nightmare. That's their nightmare of being out in the middle of the ocean on a barely moving, craft, and you got something that big bearing its way towards you, man.
Thalassophobia. I know, like one part. I think thalassophobia. That's what's called. Like you're afraid of like giant like sea monsters, basically, or you're like afraid of
Well,
how deep the ocean is and how many different things. And I kind of even felt that.
That's what it is.
Yeah, and I kind of felt that
that's
even
what
when it's like.
thalassophobia is, because I have one of my
Mm-hmm.
characters have that fear. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
That.
And it's and like you do start to realize that like when there's the shot of like the ship of like the overhead shot, you see Godzilla just swimming underneath the ship, and it almost is like terrifying realizing that the ocean is so big that something that big could literally just go by and you'd barely even notice it,
Mm-hmm.
and like
Exactly.
And yeah, so like I says, the main characters are a treat. Like it says, we were really taken in by the found family that Shikishima plays. That's funny is that and then there's Noriko. That's like the partner he picks up that had Akiko the baby. And by the way, this is more of a personal thing. I really like the name Akiko because way back when with my buddy Jay, we had a sort of pseudo before Boruto was a thing. Made a pseudo continuation of Naruto. What if you had a daughter? And I put the name of baby book names, and in Japanese there was Akiko, which means child of light. So I knew that in the back of my mind, seeing that Akiko was the name of the baby on the little flat swaddle that she was given that gives it her name. And my child of light, I'm like, oh, I know what that name means when I first saw
I know
it.
what that means. I knew that name before before they used it.
But I love that it adds more to the symbolism of what Akiko is to someone like Shikishima and Noriko. She's a shaft of light showing the life that they could have. Because there's a scene later where things have gone to pot, and the drunk doc tells off Shikishima saying, "Why didn't you just seal the deal when you had the chance? You knew she was in for it." And he admitted, "You think I didn't want that?" And he points out how he's always living in that war because he's got the pictures of all the mechanics killed by the initial Godzilla rampage that he keeps with him like a damn weight on his back, and then it's just that not only that survivor's guilt, but the fact that people call him a disgrace for not doing his job. Because with kamikaze, you're expected to die honorably, and like we mentioned in our review, the scene I loved the best was when when they started talking about how is there a chance that they could die to be ready for it, and even notices, well, maybe we've been too cheap on life. We've built like We've poorly managed stuff that led to food shortages and rationing. We've built planes without pilot ejector seats, crappy tank armor. Like, we were willing to throw everything life for the sake of the greater good, or for the sake of the country. But he says maybe what this country needs is something to live for rather than a cause to die for.
Yeah. It's a very humanist kind of message, and yeah.
And oh man, so other sequences of note to you?
For me personally, I mean, just the whole scene of like when he first meets Noriko and Akiko, and he's given the baby, like when you're watching that, like it almost starts to feel like a historical drama, like it almost starts to feel like it, like I almost started like imagining my mind is like this is almost gonna be like Titanic, or something with like just Titanic with Godzilla.
And then you see the Bikini Atoll explosion and go, oh right.
All right, yeah, there we go. And then you see Godzilla's mutating eye, which like almost felt like if it was like a TV show episode, that would have been like where they would have ended it. Like for some reason that's what came to my mind. Like that's where you would have gotten the
to be continued.
To be continued, yeah. And and then also just the I mean, cinematography wise, like this is one of the better looking films this year. It's not, I don't think the CGI is like better than Shin Godzilla. It's probably like on the same level, but definitely the and like it's interesting that we've never seen Godzilla be this small in a while, because obviously we had like Shin Godzilla where he's like well, I mean he is that small like at the beginning of the movie, but then obviously by the end he's 300 feet. And I'll admit, like, the boat scene does kind of, like, emphasize, like, sometimes it's good to have a Godzilla that's only 150 meters because, like, then he can actually be, like, a threat to the human characters. Whereas, like, because it's funny because, like, I'm actually trying to write, like, a kaiju epic, basically. Like, I'm trying to write a kaiju novel. Mm-hmm. And one of the problems I sometimes run into is, like, oh, crap, if these monsters are so big, how are they going to remain a threat to, the human characters for very long? Because obviously there's only so many situations where you can just be like, oh, the monster's walking, and then they, you could do that like once or twice, and then eventually it's like, okay, well, you have to create a more immediate danger. When Godzilla's a little smaller, it's more sensible that he's, chasing after a boat or something like that.
Well, hell, like
you can have scenes.
Go on.
And you can have scenes like that. That's what I was going to say.
I think he was the most scariest when he was the littlest. When he was like maybe only a couple of feet tall. Like he was like chomping dudes and everything, man.
Yeah, especially with like the scene where it's like they're shining the lights around. Like that almost made me think like it almost made me think of like not just Jurassic World. Mm-hmm. What was it, Fallen Kingdom, right? That was the second one.
Yeah.
Or the one with like it was like that, and then also even like kind of Michael Crichton's like original Jurassic Park book, where like you have the T-Rex like waiting in the rain, like waiting for them. And they don't realize what's going on until it brushes against the electric fence. They realize it's deactivated, which is a scene from the movie, but in the book it's written a little bit different. Yeah,
way more chilling. Yeah, and hell, the scene with Shikishima hiding under the plane before it gets like torn apart and everything reminded me very much of the Lost World novelization, where you have a lot of stuff like that, where people are barely hiding under vehicles in a natural world where this is their domain, so they just to get rid of that foreign object, and you feel exposed after that stuff's removed. That's what it kind of reminded me of too.
Yeah, very terrifying. This is easily one of the more intimidating Godzillas, and it's and he has a really cool design, and it's just lots of great action. The finale is definitely something. In some ways it's not quite like. I don't want to say retread because that sounds very like it sounds like I'm putting it down, but I don't like really mean to. It's like it's similar to like I want to say Shin Godzilla, but like that's not really. I mean, it's not like literally the same as that, but it's the same kind of like story structure, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's the final battle, and like it's definitely one of the more unique ways we've seen like people try to kill Godzilla in movies, of like trying to drag him down, and have the ocean pressures crush him or like make him rise. And it's always fun when people can come up with like weird creative things like this. And it's also like sorry, what was I saying? Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
It's definitely the most logical way I've seen people try to come around. If you told me that plan, I would actually buy it. Like that does sound like something that would work.
Yeah, it does.
I'm amazed they came up with the way to do it in a way that isn't high tech. I mean, it is in a way kind of high tech for the time, but it seems a little bit more analog. If that makes
Mm-hmm.
any sense. It's a lot more.
Yeah.
There's a lot more thought they had to go to say, okay, we have a giant monster. How the heck are we supposed to do something like that? Well, we literally let gravity do the work for us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when they mentioned that the Freon bubbles will make him less friction, so he will actually just go glide through the water rather than be buoyant. Like that's really clever. And they say, well, in that case, we have an air balloon and we'll lift him up. And I like how the kid, and I think we said, dang, you told me his name already, Derek. But they
Kid.
call him Kid. Yeah. What's funny was that how he said, why don't we just have the boats pull him up? And they say he's over 200,000 tons, 20 tons. 20,000 tons. There's no way the battleship has enough thrust to pull him out.
Yeah. And then in the end, it turns out you just need more boats. Yeah.
They had their little Dunkirk moment there, and like we were mentioning Star Wars so many times in our review. We mentioned that the scene, obviously, the one scene that came to mind when the kid came with the reinforcements was that famous scene in The Rise of Skywalker where all hope is lost, and then Lando shows up with the fleet of just civilian starships. That's exactly what it felt like when the boats came in. It was some people say
They told him he couldn't fight, and then he's the one who, and more or less ends up saving the day. You know, like he's the one because he's the one who brings in the reinforcements. Yeah, that they need to pull Godzilla up, and then yeah, sorry.
Or if you want to go a little bit more of a historical route, like we were doing with post-war Japan, but most people would also say like, oh, it's kind of like Dunkirk, where like all those civilian boats were like had that call to action and bring the boys back in
mm-hmm.
to get out.
Yeah.
And on top of that, the another part too that the historical context. Obviously, the centerpiece that everyone loves, the big moment is the Ginza attack, where he finally makes landfall in Japan, and just it has been more destructive than we've ever seen him before. And like you said, with having our protagonist in the path of his destruction, you know, if anything, it's a lot like Elizabeth Olsen's character in 2014 being in the crossfire of the battle going on. So you get that same vibe here, but it's a lot more intimate here.
She kind of like got out of the way before the battle even started. The worst thing she could have happened was like she could have just been buried alive with the rest of them. But
yeah, but that was when Godzilla fell on top of the building.
Rescue workers actually do their stuff.
You're right, but the other thing too, like I said though, is when we saw a hint of the blast when during the chase at the ocean. I loved it when the battleship came in, but the music didn't turn super heroic. It was still like tense. And then he decides to just go up to that ship, and that's like the advantage of having a smaller Godzilla is he can go up to a battleship and start ripping it apart piece by piece while they're desperately shooting at his sides. Like that moment was very dreadful, and I love it. And seeing his movie, The Great War of Archimedes, which featured the sinking of the Yamato battleship, which was very intense. Like you had blood dripping off of the deck as it rolled over, that kind of stuff. Like seeing that kind of replicated here was very thrilling.
Yeah. And this is another thing, like it does a good job of like I think there's like a part where, like even like the street like buckles or like gets torn upward, and you actually see people like getting thrust up. I remember like even as a kid when like the legendary Godzilla movies were still announced, and I had just been announced, and I was like thinking like, oh, what's it gonna look like? I remember like having that thought, like I want to see like Godzilla knock over a building, and I want to see like people actually falling out. I don't know. I was kind of a sadistic 13-year-old.
Your 13-year-old self was right. You just had to wait the decade before it got to that point.
Yeah, I did.
Because we mentioned this. Go ahead, Derek.
I was going to say that the entire Ginza attack must look exactly like how it did to people when they saw the 54 Tokyo attack back then.
Yeah.
Just seeing it just going on rampant, like blasting point blank range of heat ray against people, seeing like cars getting pelted, like buildings crumbling. Oh my god, the fucking newscasters still can't catch a break in either version.
In 54, like I mentioned, that's like the most brutal scene.
You saw them like they falling off, like, but of course the effect is done with dummies falling off of like a good model. Here you can actually see them falling up until before they actually splat, because they don't need to be that messy. They get the point across.
But the camera actually follows them. It almost reminds me of like when I would play Star Wars Battlefront, and like there'd be like a really high tower, and I just like jump off it, just to be like, and like for a while when I would do that, there actually would be like a moment of like as playing it, it's like terror because of course I'd hit the ground and then all my health would go to zero. Like it almost weirdly inspired. I don't know.
But you're
Inspired
right.
that same kind of fear. Yeah.
Yeah. And oh man, like I said, once we actually get to the actual like atomic breath scene being used as retaliation against the tanks, that again, we knew that was going to be the silent moment. But when that did happen, because all the advertising were showing that was going to be a part, but
They
actually,
never show what happened because they knew exactly that this moment was gonna like make the audience go silent. You're
it
like,
did.
oh fuck, this is not how they expected this to go. This is actually a lot more scary.
Like
Yeah.
someone made a joke that Christopher Nolan probably saw the explosion scene in the saw and thought, "Okay, you win the 2023 nuclear blast arms race." Like we love the Oppenheimer
Almost
explosion,
that.
but this you're like, God
Damn.
damn! Like
But to be fair, Oppenheimer, we were actually close enough to witness how the explosion might have been. It's just in Godzilla we had a little bit more of a thematic and tension-filled reason to fear the blast.
now in our review, we did mention that we were confused by the rain that came afterwards, and if it was blood or oil or something. But research shows.
But yep, our kitty boy here researched it, and oh god, you can go ahead and explain it.
Yeah, that is a real life scenario that happens where the force of the blast puts so much soot and ash into the atmosphere from the impact that comes down as a black rain that will sometimes cause radiation burns and also can, you know, melt the paint off of certain things. It leaves imprints on the wall and everything like that of the rain trails. And yeah, so that is like based off the black rain that would happen after Hiroshima or Nagasaki. So
That's genuinely scary. Yeah.
yeah, and you got
Jeez, you thought the Evil Dead reboot Blood Rain was like the most horrific rainstorm you've ever seen.
Yeah.
but yeah, like I
Definitely
said,
the drama in this is cranked up to like 11. Like we haven't seen Godzilla get this like dramatic, since the 54 movie. Like even just hearing like the music of like the people all screaming after Godzilla's leveled capital, like that. Like we've like again, it's times where it almost feels like some kind of historical drama, or something like that, with just the amount of like emotion and like weight they apply to like this event. Like it is like the original Godzilla, and we're like what James Rolfe said about the original Godzilla, which is like they don't treat it like a monster movie, they treat it like a real disaster, and that's definitely what makes this stand apart. That's what sets this apart, I guess, from like some other films in the series.
so
Makes
go on. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
no, it's fine. You can go ahead.
Oh yeah, so like I said, another thing that was a big oh shit moment actually watching it during the chase scene is when he has a mine in his mouth and they do shoot it, and you see like a good chunk of his cheek has blown off, but then you see that thing regenerate in real time. You're like, oh shit! He didn't expect it to like do it. Like, it was pretty graphic too about how much damage was left on his face before it started to regenerate. You're like, okay, we knew he regenerated before, regenerated G1 and all that stuff, but damn, just to see it in action like this.
See, like actually, like this, it was like incredible, And it's funny thing because like I remember even back when I was 13, like I wanted like in the 2014 Godzilla movie. It's like I don't know, maybe this is a sign that great minds think alike. I would like to think that's what it means, but it's like I wanted like there to be a scene where like the military would use like this giant bomb and send it into Godzilla's mouth. They would blow off Godzilla's head, and they're like thinking, "Oh yeah, we run," and then suddenly Godzilla's head like grows back, like skeleton and all. It's sort of like with King Ghidorah and the King of the Monsters. But it was cool to see that, because it was almost that moment like I've been vindicated.
It's kind of funny in a sort of way. A lot of people keep saying this is either the Godzilla movie they've always dreamed of but never got, or this was a Godzilla movie they never knew they wanted and they're glad to have. Like that's what I've been hearing a lot of people say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to kind of counter off on how you said the effects doesn't look as good as like Shin Godzilla, I'd argue that they probably did the effects the way they did in a way that's probably I would argue it's almost kind of evoking a little bit of like what if we had like the Godzilla movie did actually do like the stop motion effect, like they were originally going to do with King Kong, until halfway through they realized, holy shit, this is actually tedious. I don't know how the fuckers did it with King Kong. Fuck it, let's just do it with a guy in a suit.
Yeah.
But here, it definitely feels like that much more fully realized, especially with scenes where you see Godzilla kind of like almost robotically walking through the Ginza attack, and then where he gets his face regenerating, you can actually, it looks like a stop motion effect almost, the old classic Harryhausen.
It's funny because my mom loves, you know, the old stop motion of, like, you know, Harryhausen and such. And when her and I went to see it, when her and I went to see this movie, we literally just saw it like a couple hours ago. The first thing she was telling me was like she liked these effects. She didn't say if she liked it. She's seen 2014, but she didn't say if she liked this better or worse than 2014. But she said like she was just so amazed by the effects. Like, what's funny is she like said that sometimes it looked cartoony to her, but like to her that almost made it look better somehow. And it's funny that you say that you know, my mom loves stop motion so much, you know, and then, you know, she like is like in love with this movie. And yeah, sorry.
Oh yeah. And then
it's almost like the effect isn't perfected in a way, but the movie is so good that our minds just kind of drop that whole uncanny valley into the dumpster, and we are just along for the ride.
And then, like I said, it's very Sam Raimi Evil Dead, you know, like when the corpses are disintegrating at the end, but in reverse.
Yeah.
Oh, and then like I said, that moment at the end where it looks like the plan has failed and Godzilla is going to get one off, and then you could hear a pin drop with how quiet the theater was when.
Me too. It was so quiet, and like, you know, part of me almost was wondering, like, are they gonna do this? Are they actually gonna? Because like it's one of those things, like, I don't necessarily want that to happen, but it's also like I mean, I don't know if this like is proof that I'm a sadist or something, but it's almost like I gotta be frank with you. If you're gonna have Godzilla kill everyone, that's pretty ballsy. I got.
Yeah, go all Cloverfield.
Some degree of kudos if you were physically gonna do that. I mean, obviously, you know, main character flies in, you know, and like obviously again, I'm not like complaining. It's just one of those cases like, oh man, what if?
Yeah, and then I don't know, like I think Derek would have been an absolute wreck, as would I lie, if it did end with Godzilla prevailing and nuking the entire main cast at the end.
Yeah.
I would have hated it, but I would have loved the fact that I hate it.
Yeah.
It would have been a weird.
Basically, you would have quoted Lando. Feeling. I don't like it. I don't agree with it. I accept it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But man.
Just a certain aside, is it? I find it funny that like Toho likes to keep making Godzilla having this adverse effect to his heat ray. Like this is like we all at least seen it as like this cool ability that he can do. Like it's the thing that made him like kind of iconic to begin with, along with like his size, his roar, and all that stuff. But like most of the Reiwa era with Shin Godzilla and this, Toho seems to have this idea like, okay, what if the heat ray actually hurts Godzilla? Like in Shin Godzilla, you kind of it feels like it's like this explosion of energy that just needs to like release, needs to just get out of him, even to the point where it's like pouring out through his own spines. And here in -1, it's almost like this is his like last resort attack. He won't do it unless you piss the guy off so much that you say, okay, you know what? Fuck it. I just let this energy out and just blow you away to King Kong.
Yeah.
And as you see in the thumbnail, that's one of the moments where he has done that. And it really messes his body up, where he's almost like kind of like having to reel in from letting that energy out. And I feel like if he had let that energy out in that final battle, I think it would have also kind of affected him. So, actually, yeah, that would have been awesome if that happened. If Godzilla let out the energy to blow out the boats, not only would the boats have gone, but also probably Godzilla would have gone from that amount of energy. Because that one where he's holding that, he literally looks like he's about to lurch like his entire guts out.
Yeah. It's interesting because it's almost like a Hayao Miyazaki moment, you know, because like Hayao Miyazaki, like I think in like, what's it called, Nazca, the Valley of the Wind, like he's always kind of portraying like any kind of like destructive force is always like it's almost like self-destructive, like in Nazca the Valley, when there is like this giant creature that they like unlock to like try and defeat an enemy, and it has like this powerful beam, but once it uses its powerful beam, it dies, and like even like in like Princess Mononoke, like there's this rage form that like these gods can go in, but it slowly kills them as they use it or something. Like I think that's how it was, but it's a very interesting, like it's an interesting viewpoint, of like this, because it speaks a lot to like God. In this case, it speaks a lot to Godzilla as a character, where it's like he's both some sort of like symbol of the atomic bomb, but he's also like a victim of it. Like he's just as much of a victim as like the people he unleashes it on, and it's this interesting. And that's always what makes Godzilla such an interesting dichotomy. Like he's this, terrifying, eldritch, destructive force, but he's also this kind of sad, tragic victim,
The
of the Amazon man.
Yeah, because the interesting thing is that every time he sees the result of his explosion as a mushroom cloud, he seems to always roar in anger at it, like cursing it, kind of like it's still memories of the bomb that mutated him, man, from the Castle Bravo explosion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in this film, like even when he first unleashes it on Ginza, and it's like looking up, like you can almost see, like, again, he roars like out of anger, but he's like, but there's almost like this, like, sadness to it as well, like he's just this, he's as, unfamiliar, or like this is almost though this is as unnatural to him as it is to us, like what he's unleashing, and he has no idea what's going on.
Yeah, the only other time I've ever seen Godzilla seem kind of mournful, releasing his breath, would be the Shindo scene from Ghidorah, but yeah, like you're right. And yeah, Derek.
I was gonna start another quick aside, back to the effects. Mostly with Godzilla is the fact that they did it because they also wanted him to have, you can actually read his eyes a little more.
Oh yeah.
Because like in Shin Godzilla, like the most, like you got like bug eyes for his like earlier forms, and then almost it's kind of like the little beady eyes. They're just staring off.
They were going for like the uncaring god aspect, I think.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas in this one, they went with their effects so that they can allow Godzilla to have his eyes, and then he will give the most vindictive, angry stare, the 1,000-yard stare anyone's ever seen. Even audiences will feel uncomfortable seeing Godzilla stare back at him. It's like, okay, can you look the other way, guy?
Yeah.
The other way, right there, please.
That's like that face up he's giving you is the whole, like, you got something to say about that? You'd be like, no, sir, I got nothing to say.
Nope. You are correct, sir. That's fine. Just mind your business,
that's
please.
Fine. That's fine. You could slap me in the face and I'd still say sorry.
People.
The eyes, because especially whenever he stares up at the explosion, like you could actually read that anger, like disdain at such a destruction. Even though he caused it, it still looks exactly like something that he doesn't even care for. He just hates it.
It reminds me of.
The idea just mocks him almost.
It reminds me of the speech that the grandfather gave to his grandson in Final Wars, asking about why is he destroying the city, saying a long time ago a man played with fire, and it angered Godzilla. Then he will never forgive. I mean, even it's interesting that the line that was in the trailers, I didn't actually hear it said it throughout the movie, but it's that famous line of "that monster will never forgive us." Well, you get that with the way he's performed, man.
Yeah. There's a rage and an anger, and like he's like an animal that's been like an animal that's been prodded too much, and is like fighting back. Yeah, provoked. Sorry, that's what I meant to say.
But dang, yeah, like that's Godzilla during Michael Douglas in Falling Down. He's had one too many bad days.
Yep.
But now. We love the musical score. Derek mentioned his favorite score was the resolution track that was played in the ad. It has like I think it was played during the launch of the plane, actually, now that I think about it, which is a really great scene, actually. One of the few scenes that doesn't have Godzilla in it that's stunning. Like, you can't help but feel joy when he flies.
Yeah, I think I recently revisited the soundtrack. Didn't listen to all of them yet. I did listen to Divine, and that one is pretty heavy too.
Yeah, that's the one that plays when he destroys the battleship like nothing.
Yeah.
And then, oh man.
It's funny. There's like also 3 Godzilla suites. Like I think there's one that's just like
the Ginza attack.
begins to attack the menacing one. The second one I kind of prefer is the one where. So it's funny that originally when they made the iconic Godzilla theme that we all know, it was actually made for the military for 54. But because the song was also played during the opening to the original Gojira, people have latched on that. Oh, that's the theme for Godzilla. But this is in Suite 2. This is where they actually take back the theme for the humanity. This is like the humans' theme, like brought back in their moment to attack Godzilla.
Yeah. It's kind of like the Force theme in Star Wars. Like originally that was supposed to be Obi-Wan's theme, but then it got played over when Luke was looking over the twin suns, and now it's just the Force theme. Yeah. But yeah, that was a nice one. Like the theme being taken back when it's like them attacking Goji, and you get like even the little like hints of like the King Kong versus Godzilla like Kong song. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't think we don't notice that, guys. Just
yeah, because that's exactly
really
how.
Cute.
That's exactly how it was played in Godzilla vs. Destroyer, because Ifukube put that march as part of the final goodbye theme, because it's probably a piece he was most proud of, so he felt like putting it in there in part of the concert arrangement. So that's why if you watch the full end credits of Destroyer, in the middle it starts doing that do 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 do, and it starts doing the whole thing.
Yeah.
So they did it right here, which it actually worked for like the battleships just having to do the loop so they can even tie the belt around them. So it's like, yeah, we're going to crash into each other. Everybody hang on, that kind of thing. Like, damn, man.
Yeah.
Oh, and of course, the last Godzilla suite is like the end credits with the classic theme playing and the March theme along with the human theme, which is very GMK, which is funny because the director mentioned that GMK was one of his favorite Godzilla movies, and he wasn't thinking about it as he was writing, but subconsciously he might have put some of his favorite aspects of GMK into this. Hell, one of the central characters is the mechanic named Tachibana, and I remember that Admiral Tachibana was a major character in GMK and Yuri's last name and everything.
Yeah, and the theme, I don't know, for some reason hearing it in the theaters, like it actually carried a lot of weight as me and my mom were walking out. You know, like it just had the bum bum bum. Yeah, they had like I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was the same one. Sorry, what?
You walked out?
No. Sorry, during the credits. Oh wait, did something happen after the credits or sorry?
Well, it's basically you hear the footsteps of Godzilla and then the roar. Which to me and Josie, when we saw it on IMAX, you could swear I was supposed to say like, are they gonna actually have Godzilla crashing through the IMAX screen here? Because he sounds really, really fucking close.
Oh man, I wish I had stayed now. Oh man. Aww.
What's funny is that the ending of it is like the opening of 54. You're just hearing the boom, 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 and he roars, which is like when the title came up. So yeah.
Yeah, but they actually held on to the footsteps a lot longer because it's like you're waiting. It's like okay, and here comes the roar. They step in. It's like okay, the roar, and it steps closer and closer. It's like,
what's he gonna roar?
Say something.
Then he roars. But oh my gosh, the sound design is just impressive. Because one of the criticisms I remember about Shin Godzilla when it came out was people saying that they were confused how we have these modern text and modern cinematography, but then here we have these classic stock Toho sounds that were recorded in mono for like the missiles hitting them. You go the firecracker sounds.
Yeah.
But these were beefy, powerful sounds. When Godzilla roars, it shook your seat. When the footsteps came down, you pretty much felt like, oh god, this is like buildings crumbling type feeling. And the cannon fire of the boats, the machine gun rattata, that was like,
the
all
planes
sounds
exploding. That was actually a pretty good kick to the seat.
Oh, I love that bit when they're explaining mine shooting and then the Murashima can't hit it, but Kishima says he'll try it, and he says like in airplanes you got to anticipate where the movement will be and go. He's able to always hit the mines.
Yeah.
So is there anything that you would consider a fault in your point of view? Like it's okay if it's something minor that only to you a thing.
I don't know. I don't really feel like there's nothing off like the top of my head, personally. Let me think, trying to.
I didn't really have one
I think
myself.
I don't have one that like that like I can think of off the top of my head. Um, you know, everything's fairly well conveyed. You know, it's yeah. I feel like it conveys everything it means to. I mean, when I went to see it, like like with all the good reviews, like I was, because it had like a 94%. I was kind of expecting like, oh my god, I'm gonna go see this, and like it's gonna completely change my life, and I'm gonna be a completely different person. I'll admit, I feel like I'm still the same person. I'm the same person on, both sides of viewing. Again, like the movie. I guess maybe the only thing negative I have to say is like, oh, this did not change my life, but that is not.
But that's not a slight
that's
against
a very
it.
high bar for a movie to,
Well,
clear.
like
I do have two.
yeah.
I like when we reviewed it first, I did have one, but not the thing about it, there's a second one. So the first one, I'm just gonna repeat for the review that they should have had Akiko in with the hug when they were reunited with Norik in the hospital, because like it just feels like I know it's a little bit more of a character thing that like these two are reconciling, and her asking him if like he's finally feels like he like
Finish his war.
over from him.
And what's your second thing?
I just feel like the message would have actually hit harder when if Akiko joined them in with a hug, that being the answer to her question.
Mm-hmm.
So the second thing I feel like they should have done is I feel like they should have at least hinted where Godzilla came from, because when he introduced, he just comes right the fuck out of nowhere. Like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. Then you're just gonna start with this.
Yeah.
You're not gonna elaborate when he started to come up to the surface. Now this is like a thing. There's only like one mechanic even aware that this beast is even a thing.
He sort of just appears in 54 too when you think about it, though.
But
Yeah.
well, yeah, but you could also argue that he arrives because of the.
Yeah.
But his first appearance is technically. Okay, it depends on which version you watch. In King of Monsters, there's like this explosion light that happens in the water before the title drops, and that's where you say, "Oh, okay, that's where Godzilla comes from." But in the Japanese version, it's the opening scene of the boats is supposed to be reminiscent of an actual real-world event where some boats were too close to a bunch of like bomb tests that went off. And you can say that bomb test was still happening in the movie. It just only also had the unfortunate effect of having beasts coming out, and that's where like most of where that survivor had that sort of like, oh god, we thought it was terrible first, but then that thing showed up.
Yeah. And then, yeah, so, I did hear this, crap, but never mind, it left me, but, yeah, like, again, like I said, would you say that, okay, it'd be funny, like, the life-changing movie for me of this year was Barbie or something. Or Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
No, but for some people, Godzilla did change them in that way, so, again, that's more of a, your mileage will vary from person to person, but, again, that's a pretty high mark, like you said, to say, hey, it's it's still a solid experience. So now that I mentioned it, we should probably go ahead and look over some of the most surprising reactions we've heard to this thing. Like I know Derek was gobsmacked that the Angry Joe show crew reviewed this, and the hardest guy to impress on that team is Alex. We all know that because he's the more film-minded guy. He would probably be the guy that would agree with Scorsese about cinema and stuff like that. That kind of guy.
Yeah.
So when
And then he gave it a 10 out of 10. The legendary.
you're like, shit.
Like,
Wow.
You got that
Okay.
guy. You got that guy to say it.
Yeah. I've there's this YouTuber I follow. His name is Just My Opinion, and he's covered Godzilla movies before, but to my knowledge, it's mostly been like the legendary stuff. And
Mhm.
he even went to go see this. I know like this other guy, his name is Andre Blackner Comedy. He did a trailer reaction to the new Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire, and even he at the very end had to say, "Oh yeah, there's this new one. I got to go see that." These are like in situations where it's like I feel like these people would kind of be like indifferent in any other situation. Like they're like, even if they haven't seen it already, like they're prioritizing like, oh yeah, I need to see this sometimes. Or at least I'm gonna try to see this. And that's just showing the kind of wave this is making, with like within like the internet community,
It made go on.
It's funny that that cinema is trying to put all their chips in to Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, but really, like, you literally have the answer right here. Let's just have Godzilla just run around the theaters for a little while.
Well, yeah. On top of that, I was going to say too on that note that it opened up to third place domestically, which is a big deal given that not a lot of major movies came out. There was that new Beyonce concert movie which did decently, but not the numbers of the Taylor Swift movie. I think The Hunger Games still held on to the second place, but yeah, this movie.
Who the heck is first then?
Huh?
Who the heck is first then?
The Renaissance, Beyonce Renaissance, which is so funny because I love how the poster looks like I'm thinking, is this like a modern sci-fi movie? And I go, oh, it's the concert, but it has like this surrealistic latex robot like look to it. I'm laughing, going,
yeah. It's almost like, oh look, it's Daft Punk's missing third member.
Yeah, the poster, like if it didn't have the Beyonce part on the poster, I'd be confused of saying, what is even this? It's like some avant-garde French sci-fi new wave shit, and that'd be interesting. And it says, but yeah, so it did well. So the fact that Godzilla did well in the face of that is a pretty sign. Now, obviously, I listened to a long stream from a long-time Godzilla YouTuber I follow, and I was talking with another great creator, a young guy named D-Man 1954. He's really well researched in his kaiju videos, and Godzilla artist Matt Frank, who done all the Rulers of the Earth comics and some later issues of the Godzilla main series run, also translates stuff for tokusatsu stuff, and he worked on Singular Point at a point, like as a localizer for parts. So these guys actually have their finger in the industry, and they were talking about this, that it's so funny how people fixate on the success of a movie, on how much box office it did and everything like that, comparing them all in the same way. When they built King of the Monsters, they knew the ballpark of, well, we're probably going to make at least 19 million first week. That's about, like, they know where their thing, and they say we should never expect to have, we're going to have a Avengers Endgame style opening for a kaiju movie. Like, that's apples and oranges. It's a pipe dream. Like, if it happened, that'd be nice, but that shouldn't be the goal, because everybody who makes these movies knows exactly where it falls in. And it sounds like -1 is falling right where they thought it was, saying, for a domestic film, international film to come out and make 11 million in the opening weekend is actually quite stellar. It dethroned a Demon Slayer movie as, the highest gross for an imported movie brought to the States of this year. So that's a big deal, because that made a lot of money opening night, like 10 million for a 2-night event. So I'm just saying, though, that for a whole week that -1 did that, it is a feat in itself.
Exactly, and it's and it's really cool that people are talking about this, and like even it's that's like growing even like bigger than like the typical the typical little like circles for like a movie like this, and
like hearing the Double Toasted crew talk about it, it's so funny, because they admit they enjoyed the American films, and some of them had grown up watching like the Sunday stuff and everything like that, but they were like, saying like, this Godzilla, like in other movies you'd be like, oh yeah, well, they're just provoking him, or he's fighting the other monsters, that the building got in the way. But in this one you're going like, this Godzilla's an asshole, like straight up. He's looking at it like, oh, like it's like that scene in Baby Boy where Snoop Dogg sees that the guy built a fort. That's a nice little fort. Fuck you, and he kicks it. That's how Godzilla is for this. Oh, that's a nice little city you made, and then boom, like. But so here it is. I'm seeing I type in Godzilla -1 review. The first 4 reviews. Oh well, that's an unfortunate one. Okay, it's a good review, but it's used, the way it's being used is making me go, oof. I really wish they.
But it,
Oh yeah, I'm sure you guys heard of a fellow by the name of Nerdrotic, huh? Especially when it comes to
Yeah,
like their Star Wars shit being very anti everything that's come out since then.
yeah, I know them.
oh
Yeah,
no, but
Yeah,
never
but
watched them, but I know their thumbnails.
yeah, they're
Yeah,
saying Japan nukes Hollywood. Godzilla Minus One's a triumph, which is great, but they're using like
I
a particular lady image that if you look at the actual video that image comes from, she's actually being well recent, but she has such bug eyes, so she looks like that is a, I'm not going to even use the term because I'm loath to use it, but three little letters put together saying freak out type thing. I'm like, you guys are taking the wrong message from this, but okay, like,
yeah.
a lot of people are saying like, man, our Western media sucks so much that by all this messaging and agendaing that it takes people from outside our country to actually make good shit, like patriotic men taking care of their, thing, fighting against it, like no message, no hair colors. I'm all like, okay, you do you. I'm like,
Okay, you do you.
I'm
You
glad you
take this
enjoyed the
however you're gonna.
movie, but to turn it into a cultural issue is making me laugh. Like, guys, it's a movie about a nuclear metaphor, monster thing. I don't think it's meant to upend the patriarchy or
No.
or stuff like that. I'm just laughing. So,
Okay, it's ridiculous, and it's always like, oh, Japan. It's like, please don't use that allegory, man. I know you. I mean, I don't really know Nerdonic. Like, for all I know, they were actively trying to be malicious. I can't necessarily say that would surprise me, but
but I'm laughing at the thumbnail. I'm like, okay, if it hadn't been about that thumbnail, I wouldn't have given it to them. I'm thinking like, oh, you guys are wanting eyes on this, but like I'm saying, I'm getting regular guys like the Dan Murrell show. They're giving it big thumbs up. I'm seeing okay.
I just
Why?
found one with the Disney in trouble from Godzilla.
Yeah, I saw that. It just Josiah Rises. I just saw that 5 hours ago. Wait, but hell, but you're getting stuff like Godzilla Minus One is perfect. Godzilla Minus One, epic. I don't like kaiju movies, but I like this. Big Godzilla, a fresh reinvention, best Godzilla film ever, from people that the ultimate Godzilla movie. Oh, but yeah, but it is a little bit funny that it's become a flag for like channels with a certain point of view that are trying to push a sort of viewpoint. It's kind of funny when I'm sure they're just going. The movie is good regardless of your thing, but everyone else, I'm mostly seeing a lot of like everyone's got all smiles or stunned faces, and hell, Derek, and it needed him to take a while after the screening to like get the jitters off with how blown away he was by it.
Yeah.
And some of these are pretty funny, like just people getting into it, like guys pretending to do like flame breaths and everything. It's pretty funny, but yeah, like I was saying though, it's the most terrifying Godzilla, the best Godzilla film, amazing. Christian Harloff gives it a big, glowing out of theater reaction. And like I said, I think the one that stunned me, where I said I had to like bring up this discussion on it, was the fact that Jeremy Johns says, "I never was on the Godzilla train, but damn," he said. I said in my comment, because one of his quotes was, "Godzilla Minus One just blew me the fuck away." I'm all, put that on the Blu-ray box.
Yeah.
It blew me the fuck away. Signed, Jeremy Johns.
Yeah.
Hell.
The Kevin Smith line. Sorry.
Yeah, hell, in Japan, they had one of those, reviews trailer where they're like talking about like quotes from like reviews and stuff, and they were having like all kinds of big name like creators within Japan comment on it. Yeah. Like what's his name? Hideo Kojima. Like I did a rough screen translation of I screen capped the thing and I roughly translated it, and Hideo, designer of Death Stranding, said, "I watched it in the G column of IMAX. The opening from the Minus, Godzilla plot, visual effects, the Ifukube music, when everything appeared. Applause happened after the screening. There is only a plus anymore." It's rough translation. The result was plus 120 points, so I would like to change the title. Signed, Hideo Kojima.
Yeah.
But like I'm saying though, this is
nice.
this is like I know in Japan, Shin Godzilla was universally well received. And it was only outside of Japan that I started hearing people say, "Yeah, well, it didn't work for me," or saying it's a little bit of a soulless this and that. I'm like, okay, stuff like that. And I get why people would say that regarding Shin, but I'm hearing the exact opposite about Minus One. A soulful, character exploration, a lot of it's just nice to see people just embracing it this way, and the fact that I heard that the guy who directed -1 is making the rounds, and he did express interest in wanting to direct like a Star Wars movie one day.
I heard. Yeah.
If -1 is doing this well, that might put him on the door to like get his foot in the door to have conversations about that. So I
Yeah.
think an analyst said it might be better for him to cut his teeth on, say, doing an episode of one of their shows. Because that would be incredible if they got like an
Yeah.
outside director to like do one of their things.
Yeah,
But
that'd be nice.
you can definitely see how Star Wars would work with the way he handled the flying of the Shenzhen plane.
Definitely, like it definitely had that kind of like again, another Hayao Miyazaki thing. The obsession with well, I mean, Hayao Miyazaki's obsessed with planes. This movie wasn't like quite obsessed with planes, but it did planes very well, one way or the other. Yeah,
I think you're talking about like The Wind Rises. I think.
yeah. The Wind Rises, and and what was the other one? Porco Rosso.
Oh,
like,
I love Porco Rosso. That's a good one.
That's a good one.
But oh my gosh, so there's even people saying like he did say he would like to make another one if Toho. He had so much fun making this one that if Toho were to approach him to try making another Godzilla film, not necessarily a follow up, but another chance
I
to
wonder
direct.
if you'll let me do another picture.
Yeah, exactly. I hope they let me do another picture. Like he would love to. Yeah. And I could say though he's done a lot of stuff like Great War of Archimedes and always Second on Sunset on Second Street, that kind of stuff. But this is like I think this is like his biggest break. I think with the reaction it got overseas and in his homeland, I think this opens up a lot of opportunities for him, and I hope he gets every good thing coming his way because I say from my point of view he it's well earned with the way he got performances out of his team, the fact that he himself sat down and did the effects. He's an effects guy too, so the fact that whenever the team needed to go home to their families because they're exhausted, he would take over and finish their load for them. He's a real class act.
Yeah.
So I'm just going like I want to see actually to quote Pop, I know his career's been around for a while, but he says definitely interested in you. We'll watch your career with great interest.
Yeah.
So if they were to announce in a few weeks that he would be doing a new project that involved something whimsical, that might be okay, interesting. And if they say he did another Godzilla project, I wonder how you would handle a solo Mothra project. I know
I was thinking that too. Funny thing enough, like doing that, just to like see like whether it was like something completely new or it was like an actual remake of like the original Mothra, but maybe with like certain nuances applied to it that are more modern day. Like the similar like guy steals the twin fairies, then what could you bring to that nowadays?
Now, imagine if he did the same -1 treatment to Rodan.
That'd be interesting. Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see Rodan get another solo outing, and yeah.
Be as destructive as he was in Say King of the Monsters.
Yeah.
Right.
Actually allow him to like knock over buildings, and actually be like a destructive force, and I wonder if they do the Mega Nulons again, just yeah.
It'd be more violent if he did get a hold of them, I bet.
Yeah.
Okay, so the bit like it says, I love Jeremy Johns' first 5 seconds. He goes, yeah, and he goes, that'd probably be the whole review right there. Done. Like, damn, he really liked it. And like the Angry Joe show, like the only guy we still haven't heard from that we're waiting on pins and needles to hear is Cinemassacre, because I definitely would love to hear what James Rolfe's
of all the people across the realms of YouTube, he is like one of the biggest Godzilla fans I know of. Cause he was like, but he was mostly a fan during a time where like nobody gave two shits about Godzilla. It's like it's like rubber suits, like
he was one of the. Yeah, he was one of the first times I remember, like, even experiencing Godzilla enthusiasm. I mean, obviously there was Toho Kingdom, and like on Toho Kingdom, he had like the little flash animations, but like rarely was there like people that talked about Godzilla. Like James Rolfe was one of the first guys I can remember doing that. Like actually talking about Godzilla and like talking about the movies. It was like, oh my god, I feel so validated. And then like after that, like we've gotten plenty of like reviewers who are like even willing to go like more in depth. But it did kind of start with him.
I mean, shoot, like his second Monster Madness year was literally dedicated to a marathon of Godzilla movies.
Yeah.
Like it's you can tell someone loves a certain franchise when like after like a successful campaign with like bringing up a classic monsters up to at very least I think up to 80s or 70s Halloween I think that the next year they start it's like you know what fuck it I'm just gonna use this time to actually talk about Godzilla because I want to talk about all these different movies like I have so much to say that I want to share like all these like at least like 30 days worth like I'll even toss it in the American 98 Zilla one like but actually he was going to talk about that one.
Also, on top of that, one of my favorite episodes of his AVGN series is the episode talking all about Godzilla games. Especially when he gets to the end and plays the modern games and says the phone like, why couldn't I have those games when I was a kid? That made me laugh so hard.
I'd rather get shocked by sucking Mechagodzilla's mechanical weeder.
Yeah, all that. Getting guy against buzzsaw. Getting guy against buzzsaw on my ass. Then Mangara. Oh man, Destroya by this guy can truly be a nightmare, I think, if done right.
Yeah. Like kind of he'd almost be like the hybrid of like a pandemic mixed with like a pandemic mixed with like a destructive force. At least that's kind of what Destroyer would be. At least that's how I see it, because it's like, first it's like eating up the fish and then like maybe it'd be like in this version like maybe I don't know eats up people.
Like Hedorah.
Yeah, Hedorah,
and then Hedorah would also be scary in this type of style.
Yeah.
But it's not enough to just have your monsters be a threat. You have to have people you care about in the path of that threat. So as long as this writing is consistent, I think people can see this as a teachable moment that it's not that we don't like humans in the Godzilla movie, but we like well-rounded characters that we can grow attached to. That way we're not just skipping over to the monster fights. And I saw D-Man talk about how this is definitely an interesting period for Godzilla. Because you literally have something for everybody. For somebody who wants their, allegorical, ponderous, original nature of Godzilla, you got stuff like Shin Godzilla and -1. If you want your hokey, campy, dancing, epic, friend, defender of mankind, you have the Legendary series diving into that. And if you like your effects to be groundbreaking, the current films will use CG, but you still have your Toho shorts doing the traditional way still, showing you that it can still be done like that. Jet Jaguar short was amazing.
Yeah, I heard, and yeah, it's nice. It's great, honestly, at this point. Like this is the kind of stuff that obviously I wanted, like from the point of view to like 2004 to like 2013, where like you kind of were getting. I remember seeing a post by this other Godzilla this Godzilla Instagram guy who like posts like all the stuff you watched like while you were waiting for new Godzilla stuff to be announced, like like this. It was like a Godzilla Returns trailer, but it was like clearly a shot of like Always Sunset on 3rd Street 2.
That one,
which you knew was BS. And then you see like little fan made posters where it's like the 2012. Remember the Roland Emmerich 2012 movie, but now it's like the Godzilla Final Wars. Godzilla breaking out of it. And just like desperately waiting for something new to get announced because.
And now we have a bunch of content. We got animes that totally reinvent them, like Singular Point and the Polygon trilogy. We have stuff that's traditional, like Legendary. We got stuff that's out there, like Shin. So the fact that he is such a malleable character and can come into all these shapes and sizes and still be like if you didn't like Shin Godzilla, maybe -1's more your speed. If -1 was maybe too ponderous, maybe you'll get a kick out of the fun that is Godzilla X Kong New Empire. If you weren't a big fan of Godzilla vs. Kong, then maybe you'll like, like the ponderous nature of Singular Point. Like, there's something for everybody. So it's not like you have to like it all or hate it all. But it's like you have, it's like a sushi platter of different options. Maybe you like this sushi a little more than that one. Maybe you don't eat it all together. But you have options. That's what's great to have now, rather than saying you're gonna eat this slop and like it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny though that we have mindset with Godzilla that we can have different ways to enjoy it. Yeah, the MCU is doing that too, but people are just like, ugh, heroes are dead.
I don't know. It's just that I think, and it's very funny how Godzilla is not really relying on being a cinematic universe this time around. I know that for some reason in 2020 they announced the plans of launching what they want to call World of Godzilla brand logo, so they can have like more universal appeal. And I think people were under the impression that meant like a shared Godzilla cinematic universe, but in reality, I think it's just the way Toho's been approaching how to relaunch Godzilla to the masses, with mobile game announcements, specialty novels being released, these movie projects.
The Gigabash DLC.
So that's probably what the World of Godzilla plan was. Not a new cinematic universe, but a new way to expand the brand. And I think, like the fact that Toho didn't put this through just a little 2-day event at Fathom or an independent channel, the fact that they said we're putting this worldwide release in December is really telling. I guess they were either that confident by what Yamakaze turned in, or they really, believed in this movie. That's what's amazing, that it got this wide release, that we could see it in the theater. Yeah. I thought, like when Shin Godzilla had that limited thing, we all knew we had to see it because it was those 2 days only, and it was nice to see. But the fact that this was a wide release where he could go on a Sunday morning with his mom and check it out, that is truly special, I think. I never thought I'd see the day a Japanese Godzilla film would get that kind of attention, but here we are.
Yeah, here we are. I've been waiting for it for a while, and yeah, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't have Blair Bolton criticizing, saying, it's too dark, it should be a little bit more hokey. Like the best Godzilla movie, Godzilla's Revenge.
Yeah, he called a lot of them turkeys in his book, if I remember. I think the only one he really remotely liked was the Sea Monster, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I don't know. There was a few of them he kind of gave. He even roasted the Emmerich film. Yeah. Oh, but on the note of Godzilla's future, the fact that we got the new Empire, it's so funny how everyone is suddenly losing their mind about redesigns and saying how. Remember when we had Bryan Cranston in one of these things, and it was ponderous and serious. Pepper Strong remembers.
Yeah.
But I'm enjoying the craziness because, again, we just had our somber film with -1, so getting this, Megalon-esque style running thing, it's just, I'm there for it. I know I'm a little like, that's a little curious choice, but hell, Godzilla vs. Kong ended up being a fun, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't stop smiling as the trailer went on. It just kept going to say, okay, like, so this is where the tower drops to say, oh no, you're still going. Oh, okay, they're gonna be doing that. We're gonna be running like superheroes.
Someone said that.
When did the tickets start selling?
Someone said it reminded them of the ending shots of the Schumacher movies when you see Batman and Robin running from the bat signal toward the camera.
Yeah.
And it kind of does look like that with Godzilla and Kong both going like.
Yeah.
It'd be like, hey, Kong, come on, there's a lot of trouble up ahead.
Trouble ahead. Oh, yeah. My brother told me that, like, I guess the internet's agreed that, like, Kong is voiced by Ron Perlman. I don't know if
Oh, that'd be epic. I like how...
voiced by Ron Perlman, and Godzilla is voiced by Keith David.
Now, I don't know about Keith David, but I love Ron Perlman as Kong, because it reminds me of Optimus Primal being voiced by Ron Perlman.
Yeah, so Ron Perlman's good at voicing gorillas. We at the very least know that. And, Godzilla was, hit by nuclear radiation, and, in a way he died and came back, kind of like Spawn.
Okay, I get the logic right there. But,
or he was trapped and got freed, like Goliath from Gargoyle.
Okay, I'll buy your Keith David question now. Oh, man. Yeah. Oh, but this looks like a lot of fun, and I'm glad -1 thing. I'm definitely buying this on home media the minute it comes out for sure.
Yeah, me too.
And I wonder if they're gonna still allow Funimation to try to do dubbing, or Funimation's gonna look and like, hey guys, you're good. I think people are gonna like it watching it subbed. You don't need us to do anything.
Although it'd be so funny and traditional, but it'd be so funny if they reached out to Omni, that Chinese company that still do dubs. I don't know if any of the actors from that are still alive, but they're the ones who did all the Heisei films and the Millennium films. And there's that one particular voice of that one guy who literally plays 3 characters within the same movie: a professor, a general, and like that same. You know the voice I'm talking about. And
Yeah, I do.
he was Galvatron's voice.
Yeah, I don't want him anywhere near Noda. I'm just no.
Yeah.
No, I don't think he'd be Noda. If anyone, he'd be the Admiral. If anything, that shows up at the end.
Yeah.
Although, if anyone's gonna play Noda, it'd probably be the guy who played what's the name of Ida from My Hero Academia. That's probably the guy I could see them give it to him.
Yeah.
But oh man, I don't know what they would do. But like I say though, this has been a lot of fun. I don't know if we have anything more to say, but I think it's lean like. I think we can all agree it's nice to see a Godzilla film get universal praise after seeing. Here's another thing I want to comment on.
Dan Michael Tatum.
I love that guy. I actually got to talk to him. Oh, so the thing is that it's so funny how people are gushing all over this one, but then using it as a hammer to hit the films that they didn't like Shin Godzilla or the MonsterVerse. Like saying, I saw someone saying support this, not that MonsterVerse trash. I'm laughing, going like, my brother in Christ, you do know it's because of the MonsterVerse Toho had enough money in their coffers to make this one.
I know.
It just point us out. You do realize that Japan eats up the MonsterVerse movies just as much as most Americans do as well, right?
The tribalism is funny.
It's always sad that like this stuff always has to get like reduced to like a dick measuring contest. Exactly. You're like, oh, we have to say, oh, this is my movie has a bigger dick than your movie.
Exactly. It's like that. It's like that PC Master Race saying my dick is bigger. Well, mine was biggest last year. Remember that one? The PC Master Race.
Yeah.
But I'm going like. I'm like with some of the more measured Godzilla fans. I love Godzilla. I don't care if I'm eating them from the west or the east. If it's entertaining and good to me, I'll always embrace it. So that's.
And then there's Godzilla fans, sure. You might as well just treat that as a snooze fest.
I'm the one guy that still like holds its merits up, I think.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, when we did do our rewatch of it, he fell asleep for most of it. I don't blame him, though. It was a long day, and that movie just was a dream.
I would just like to point out to the audience that this is also the same guy that was A-OK with the original Sonic the Hedgehog movie look.
Yes, I know. I know. Guilty as charged.
Yeah. I mean, when I saw the design, I wasn't as horrified as everyone else. So, like, I mean, I didn't necessarily like it, but I wasn't as horrified. So, Chris, I can at least offer you that as, like, a little consolation.
Then again, I'm the guy that's found the face hugger fluttering thing kind of cute in one of the Alien movies. And
yeah.
Why did I find that cute of all things?
Yeah.
Even the alien wiener snake popping out of the oil, like the hammer piece.
Yeah.
Oh, look at it. And then it goes into the guy's esophagus, and I still going like, I don't mind it.
I don't mind it, no.
But yeah.
You can go into my esophagus as much as you want.
Oh, yeah, but I'm just laughing at the people using it as a shit-flinging contest when I'm going, guys, we love Godzilla, regardless of what side of the sea he comes from, man. It was... but I don't know. It just makes me laugh. And now you're probably getting it more again with the fact that Godzilla New Empire looks batshit insane. That people are saying, the direct will eat this up, and we'll try to truce in them. Like, guys, in the end, we're all winners here.
Yeah,
we're getting
what we want. Come on.
Exactly.
The GXK look. Am I the only one that thinks it's kind of like a mix of like Shin and Millennium?
Definitely Millennium with how angular the spikes look now.
Yeah, and even kind of the red-looking spines are kind of like the Godzilla 2000 look,
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of reminds me of the toy. Like, it almost seems like one of those like variant toys you would buy at like Japan. Like, I think I still have one for like the Godzilla against Mechagodzilla one where it's like super green and like has purple spines and it's like almost stylized. Like it almost reminds me of that.
And oh man, and people are already nicknaming the young Kong foundling. People are saying, "Oh, this is the Grogu Kong of the whole thing," right? And what's funny is some people are horrified by the little baby, like they're saying, "Oh," and I know how Minya fans feel, but you see non-Godzilla fans react to it, and they all say the same thing, like, "Aww," like when they see the little Kong baby.
Oh, it's so cute. Reminds me of Cornelius from the from the Caesar trilogy of Planet of the Apes.
Actually, that's the weird thing I'm having about seeing this trailer is all the apes I'm seeing. I'm going like, Kong's the last of his kind. So is this a flashback with when the Scar King ruled over all the other apes?
Yeah.
Also, I kept saying this for some reason. The Scar King, the big orangutanish looking ape, he reminds me of Paul Giamatti as Limo in Tim Burton's Planet of the
Burton.
Apes.
Yeah, I see that.
Can we all just get along?
Yeah, you'll just get along.
I don't know
That's
why
what
I'm
he's gonna say at the end. When Godzilla and Kong beat the crap out of him, that's what he's gonna say at the end. Can't we all get along?
Derek?
I don't know that scar looking ape kind of looks a little more like a gargantuan than it is like a Kong.
But he does have the whole spine hanging off of his thing like a sash. Like, that's a pretty cool metal thing.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, there's this little thing that hits the ground. I don't know if it's like a weapon piece or a crab monster, but, if it's a crab monster, you know exactly what my wish is for, given the fact that they just, hand waved this thing into the whole universe.
Yeah.
I remember saying...
I still say that looks like Megalon's piercer. One of the piercing hands.
Well, there is rumors of a fan favorite monster from King of the Monsters not appearing in the movies, actually reappearing in this one after they had a different Monarch monster but they said it didn't test well, so they redid it with a more familiar monster, and everyone ate it up. Me personally, I'm hoping for Mosuda, but
it has to be Mothra. Like
imagine the throwdown.
I'll take her or leave it with Rodan, but I prefer Mothra.
Well, they hinted at the egg.
Especially considering the fact that she is just like the second popular monster of the kaijus overseas. So.
Oh, and also,
or shit, you could even maybe it doesn't have to be Mothra exactly. Maybe it could be Leo. I'd be all for that one too.
Or Batra finally.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I says though, it's coming out for his anniversary. I'm glad for that. This is being billed as the 70th anniversary movie with -1. So either way, it'd be very funny to rank all the anniversary Godzilla real quick. So obviously the 10th anniversary was Mothra versus Godzilla. Really like that one. It does give Godzilla the indignity of being dragged around by his tail by the adult Mothra and being beaten by the two larvae. In fact, I made a joke when I said, "Time to see Godzilla fight his most hated enemy," and then he threw in, and he threw in the line,
Mothra larva.
Like so far, the Mothra larvae 9 times out of 10 tend to beat Godzilla on their own. That's what's funny.
Yeah. Even in like Godzilla Tokyo SOS, when like Godzilla first blows up the adult Mothra, and then you see the two babies' eyes go pink with vengeance.
Yeah, and oh man, so I like that. That's a good anniversary movie to me. It's the last time we see Godzilla be a menace before becoming an anti-hero onward. So I like Mothra versus Godzilla.
Yeah, and then Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla that's the
20th.
next anniversary movie,
That was the
right?
20th anniversary one.
That's,
and then
that's Mechagodzilla. That's Mechagodzilla. Besides Kiryu, but yeah.
Yeah, and then Godzilla,
Space
and then
Godzilla.
Return of Godzilla,
Return of Godzilla, or just
Space
Godzilla, or it's
Godzilla Final Wars. Yeah. Godzilla Final Wars, or no, Godzilla versus Space Godzilla, then Godzilla.
That was a rushed one. Even Derek said, like, yeah, it's a filler movie. We're sorry.
Yeah.
I would argue that Godzilla vs. Destroyer, even though it came out in '95, that one's the anniversary movie.
But they keep referring to 54, so yeah. Then, of course, Final Wars was an anniversary movie, but also, in a weird sort of way, so is the Kiryu duology.
Definitely.
Yes.
So it's almost like that's the 50th anniversary movie, but the official big 50th anniversary movie was Final Wars, and that's just a fun time. If anything, that's what New Empire reminds me of, is Final War.
Yeah, I see that. I could see like the Final Wars like music dipping in. You're like ba 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 ba.
Yeah, I'll probably stick that in.
I could actually see that with Godzilla and Kong are fighting. Oddly enough.
Oh yeah, but
so am I the only ones that thinks that the MonsterVerse is slowly gonna lead up to another big event where we're gonna introduce a zillion aliens?
Eventually, yeah, we got Ghidorah established as an alien, so
yeah.
We find out that Charles Dance was actually an alien this whole time.
Yeah, he gets shot and
Fish head pops out.
yeah.
Or a dragon head. He's like a Ghidorah.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be cool. That'd be cool.
Like, gee, Tywin, I thought you were a lion, not a dragon.
Yeah.
Oh, now he would never be in this series. I think. Okay, I think he was in Spider-Man, but it'd be so funny if Reese Ifan showed up in one of the MonsterVerse movies. I don't know, because I love his auto. I love his auto high tower. I just want him in more shit.
Yeah, me too. It'd be interesting. Like, yeah, definitely. Like, whether it was like a zillion or it was just like some like weird, ominous scientist who's like studying the kaiju, but like, oh wait, what are his real goals? And then he can turn out at the end that he's like a villain, or it turns out he's actually a hero, whichever one it turns out. Yeah.
I don't know. Like, at this point, we already had the great rematch of the Century. We already had a good classic Toho throwback with Kingdom Monsters. I say let them go crazy. Yeah. I don't think they can find a way to make me like it less than I already have before. Now, if they find a way to somehow really shit the bed, I'll be the first to tell you, God, they stumbled. But I'm all for it.
If they make Godzilla actually speak English, I think that would be like putting like, okay, these fuckers don't care anymore. They're just done.
Bigger Jaws. It's Jaws, but bigger Jaws. But say it's bigger Godzilla. Oh no, we gotta unite and fight against a common foe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, although I would be all yes in the theater if the audience either groans or laughs if they actually have legendary Godzilla start doing the happy dance from Invasion of Astro Monster.
I mean, the Hollow Earth battle scenario. I'm assuming that the final battle is going to be in Hollow Earth.
That'd be amazing.
The gravity in there is a little bit lighter than main Earth. So
that's why he can run, because it's lighter down there.
Exactly. That's why he could do that. I know people was like, "The fuck? What? Godzilla can sprint now?" It's like, no. This is Hollow Earth gravity is
on
different.
top of that,
topside Earth.
Someone had a video responding to a comment saying Godzilla can't run, and they're all, my brother in Christ, what Godzilla doesn't run? And they're showing every Showa moment he's been running like a maniac.
Like in Zone Fire, where like he sprints really fast in Zone Fire, if I recall correctly. Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. But even if that one turns out to be a big like oops in the water, at least we had -1, and that is a great anniversary film. So
I am just saying though, if New Empire doesn't make like, I'm not saying if it doesn't make like $1 billion. I'm just saying if it doesn't make bank, then it's like, okay.
We still have a season 2 of Monarch promised.
Demolish the movie theaters at this point. Nobody cares about going there. Clearly, everyone's waiting until they're at the streaming sites that they can watch them or pirate them or however the fuck they seem to be watching these movies now.
Well, at least they didn't just say, okay, this movie's done, let's put it on the shelf.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And with that, I think we'll say final thoughts. I think it's time we say goodbye to Ian. Thank you for coming on for this. I love always hearing your insight.
You're welcome. I always love talking to you guys.
And Derek, thank you also for coming along, man. It's this wee hour of the night, but this movie was awesome, man.
Yeah, it was.
All right, then. So this is Johnny Cat 79 signing off, and remember, folks. Crap, I don't have nothing to close it on, so I'm just gonna take a bow. So everybody, take care.
All right.
Arigato.